So the Brutes of England were another source, and I'm giving you a rundown on, there are dozens of books and places, right? The other thing is that once we've established the two Arthurs, we start to get a dating pattern, right? You see, the Battle of Badon is not 570 AD. The Battle of Badon is about 550 AD. It's 33 years later. And the Battle of Camlan slips backwards, right? It's not 535, it's about 568, something like that. And again, that makes sense in the histories. The Welsh histories then begin to make sense. They previously said these histories are terrible, they're muddled, you know. They're not. The dating has to be put right.
But I must emphasise, Alan has been a passionate historian for 60 years. So I think I think after 60 years of historical research, I think he should know something about it.
The records are multitudinous. What I'm saying is there are sources all over the place which have not been properly used. Bardas, written 1800s, again, by Oxford scholars, and again they exhibit and they describe the origins and the where and wherefore of this much maligned alphabet. And the alphabet, of being alleged as forgery, was the main weapon used to discredit histories. Now there are stones in Wales, and in Scotland, and in England, that contain the Colburn alphabet written on them. And sometimes the alphabet is mixed with Latin letters. So when they couldn't get a British sound from the Latin letter, they put a Colburn alphabet in. Right. They got round that one with a man named Collingwood, who's from Northumberland of all places. And he said that all carving of stones and ancient stones started in Northumberland, in Britain. And they then spread, and they then taught the Irish how to carve stones. The Irish will be pleased, right? And when the Welsh wanted a stone carved and inscribed, they sent for the Irish to come and do it for them. So when you get a stone in Wales with Colburn on, or with a mixed Latin Colburn text, it's Latin and Irish. Now this has caused pandemonium, because you lose the stone of King Moirig, Maurice, Arthur II's father. It's there for all to see.
And where is that stone, Alan?
It's in Magamabi. You lose the stone of King Taithfald, and you lose the stone of King Tudrig, because the names have been they're incorporated. They're not Irish at all. And the allegation that the Welsh couldn't carve a bloody stone and needed an Irishman to come and do it is disgraceful. But the archaeologists are mainly English, and they love this. You got the land of charters. The land of charters do record King Arthur, yes. And he makes land grants. And his father does, and his grandfather does, and his sons and grandsons do. So the idea is the land of charters. They're in Latin and then translated into Welsh. And they clearly exhibit grants by all sorts of people, including Arthur II.
So where does that date from, the land of charters?
They were compiled down the centuries as they were made. They start the Lancarvan Abbey charters around 400. These seem to commence around the 470 era, around there, maybe a little later. And they go on to 1120. In the margins of these charters, they often wrote notes of historical importance. You know, the charter written down the middle, they write all sorts of notes around the margins. So what they do, they record the charters given by the kings and major princes to the church. And they also say who was there. His brother was there, his father was there, or his son was there. And you get a cascade of the kings down through the centuries. And so you've got a comprehensive list of the kings of Glamorgan and Gwent, South East Wales, and the Bishop of Llandaff. There's nothing like it. Be it known to the clergy and people of southern Britain that Athwys, that's him, right, king of the region of Gwent, granted Goddensin, Dubricius and St. Tylo. Tylo's his first cousin. Dubricius, Duffrig, crowned him. In the hand of Bishop Comeragh, he's a local bishop, right? The Church of Kinbach and so on and so on. King Arthurus went round the whole territory in its circuit, sprinkling of the dust with the sepulchre of St. Kinbach. And it goes on. He parades around the entire circuit of things. And the king alone carried the gospel on his back and confirmed forever the alms that have been given for the soul of his father Moiric. He's given the church a bit of land so they can pray for his daddy. And it says who's there. All the abbots and bishops who attend and all the relatives of the king who attend this ceremony. So what you do, you can build up a who's who of the entire sort of royal family. Mm. This is a copy of the Mavernian archaeology. And again, these books fall apart if you use them. It's a couple of hundred, this is 200 years old and more, see. There's a whole wodge in the front of ancient poetry, masses, over 230 ancient poems, some of them very long, right? And a lot of them deal with Arthur and the burial of Arthur and his death. And the information in these poems is massive, because they deal with numbers of princes, their exploits and their deaths and this sort of thing.
Can you give us an example, Alan?
One of the famous ones is a dialogue between Arthur and a fellow named Lulod. And Lulod is important because Lulod means coloured man. It means a brown-skinned man, not a black man, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a lot here about Taliesin, who is the Merlin figure. Between Arthur, son of Uther, and his nephew, Lulod, the son of Madoc, the son of Uther. Okay? That's what it's between.
Right.
So Arthur's got a brother named Madoc, who is Madoc Malfran, Madoc of the seaweeds, or Madoc the cormorant. Okay? He's a sailor, obviously. And it goes on. Now, Arthur asks a question, Lulod, Oilod, he answers 3 lines. Arthur asks another question, and Lulod answers. And it goes on like that, question and answer, right the way through.
Okay.
They're talking about a great, great strange land out across the ocean, which is vast. And there are huge mountain ranges, great lakes, massive rivers. And Arthur's asking, well, are there kings ruling this place? And he says, no. There's no kings. You know. Are there coast guards guarding it? He says, no, nobody. It's there for the taking, you see. And he's planning, you see what's coming. He's planning an expedition, you see.
You think it's America?
Well, Arthur then sails out of Milford Haven with 700 ships. Oh, where is he going? We pieced together the story out of the poetry and out of the lives of the saints and out of the various histories. Because you see, there are 6 ancient histories in here. 6, which are generally ignored. And they contain massive information. They interlock with the poetry. They interlock with the lives of the saints. They seem and appear to be accurate. And where it's possible to compare them with the Roman records, they tie up. And so we've got 6 histories, several hundred poems, right? And these are, then you've got lives of the saints. And as they give the saint, you couldn't be a saint unless you were a royal or noble family. Ordinary people couldn't be saints. So you have the saints' father and mother and their ancestry, all listed down, all the genealogies of saints, you see. Well, these are all people from the royal and noble families. So it adds further to this agglomeration and cementing together.
Now, I must emphasize, one of these experts said that a book is required, a book in a sort of a Braveheart sort of format.
A fictional book to sum up the Welsh King Arthur.
We've
King
done
Arthur's.
a book on that. It's Arthur the War King.
Mm-hmm.
This is the tier. Mm-hmm. Everybody who's read that thinks it's absolutely awesome.
All of your other books are non-fiction, though. They're basically historical research and evidence-driven.
Yeah.
But that
Arthur the War King is a historical novel based on fact.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Professor Morgan did say the necessity for such a book. Mm-hmm. And there is a book which has already been written.
Yeah.
In one say Life of the Saints, he arranges the marriage of Gladys with Brucken of Brecon, who's his first cousin. And Brucken and Gladys get married. Gladys is the daughter of Gwynthrew, who's a pirate living in Newport, what is now Newport on the Usk. When they were digging out Newport docks, they found the remains of ancient ships in the mud, but they didn't bother to preserve them. Arthur has a celebrated meeting with Gildas, because he executed Gildas' brother, Hoyle, cut his head off. And so he goes to Lancarvan Abbey, which is 10 miles west of Cardiff, and he and Gildas have a celebrated meeting. So it's peppered everywhere. St Illtyd is the first cousin of King Arthur. In the life of Illtyd, you get King Arthur.
You published quite a prominent book in 1986 called Arturius Rex Discovered.
Arturius Rex Discovered is more of a popular edition, hardcover. It depicts the accession memorial stone of King Arthur II on the front cover, in fact. And it was a very popular, well-received book, at least in South Wales. But now it's very popular on the internet, and everybody who reads it thinks it's absolutely excellent.
And of course, that book was written before the King Arthur burial cross was uncovered or was excavated.
That is the point. It was done before the excavation, so we couldn't be making things up.
In Nennius, who was a celebrated historian, around 800, and in the life of St Illtyd, the burial is described in detail. He's first brought in by ship up the River Wenny, and he's placed and buried in a cave. He's later taken out of the cave and placed and buried under a church.
The Church of St Peter's is associated with King Arthur II.
We went along, saw that the ruin was in the right spot, and that all the place names around it were right. Portrev, a supreme place. You get the names where the great massacre occurred is there.
Had you already named the site in that book of St Peter's Church?
We mentioned the site of St Peter's Church. There's photographs of St Peter's Church within the book. We mentioned the stone in the book, which was found in an excavation, a pre-excavation in 1986, just before the book was published, and that's what actually inspired us to proceed immediately to publish the book.
See, in Wales you get fields on a tithe map. The tithe map was drawn for the church and that, and each field is drawn very carefully, and the acreage is expressed, and the field's given a number. Then the tithe book gives the number of the field, its acreage, who owns it, who may farm it if it's not the owner, and the amount of tithe that's got to be paid to the church. So all Welsh fields, certainly in South Wales, had names, and they were named for events. So you can actually read the history in the land. It tells you where the beer tent was, where the quarrel started, and where the massacre occurred, in the tithe maps. And you can find information in all sorts of places if you know how to look.
The sword-shaped stone was actually part of the fabric. And the archaeologists have written up a report actually revealing where it came from in the war.
Right. It's the castle of Cardiff. There's the ruins of an ancient castle there. Of course, the archaeologists don't even know it's there. The tower bases are in the fields and the walls. King Cardiff, the first who fought the Romans, the highest spot on the hill is Towing Cardiff. There's a big grave mound there.
St Peter's Church, the excavation in 1990, one of our, there was about 50 people involved in the excavation altogether, but one of the, basically the groundwork, as Richard Melbourne actually found an electrum cross. Well, sadly, he's passed away now, but he found that, and that is one of the most, perhaps, if not the most compelling, tangible artifact we found at the site in that excavation.
And it's inscribed Pro Anima Artorius.
It is indeed, yes.
Which means for the soul of Arthur.
Yeah. Now, we have had that tested, thoroughly tested, and it's typical of artifacts of that period.
Now, the important thing is that this was dug up after you had purchased the land. Because you purchased that land because you thought that was the resting place of King Arthur II. And then at some point later it was excavated, and then you found this cross.
Correct. Basically, we thought it warranted excavation in view of all the evidence which we had already accumulated. We assembled a formidable team, and one of the basically labourers really just happened to find the cross.
It's above Brynner, the village of Brynner.
Which is in southwest Wales.
It's in South Wales, I'd say mid-Glamorgan. It's there, anybody can go and see it. And then it leads on to other, you can start reading the tithe maps, you can find out where the loot is. There's a giant sort of boat shape in the ground, and there's a grave mound there. And Uther Pendragon is buried in the ground mound in the great circle at Caercaradoc. That is Caercaradoc, because the castle of Caradoc's there, the grave of Caradoc's there. And St. Peter's Church is at Caercaradoc. The name of that church is St. Peter's. Now, Vortigern's ambassadors met Emrys Wedig, the Crown Prince, Emrys, right, jewelled prince, right, and his mother at St. Peter's Church. I think that it would set them up with a tourist. There are only 3 million people there. It's the same size as Birmingham, the suburbs, right? And I think it would set them up for all time as a tourist mecca, because we've touched on a fraction of us.
A tourist mecca?
Oh, yeah. I would think at a minimum 30,000 jobs. See, a tourist job's permanent. You can't take the pyramids away, people don't see them. But a factory is not permanent. These larger books, you know, this was written for Charles II of England. There's a copy of it. It gives his genealogy. And he traces his right to be King of England back to the Prince's Wales. And all through the piece, the Duke of York, the Duke of Northumberland, all of them, they all trace their ancestry back to Welsh. It's there if you want to look at it. Take advantage of it. Take advantage of it every possible way. Get the industry set up and running. Try to promote the construction of hotels. There are numbers of sites right through Wales. It's not just one area, although there's a concentration there. There are sites all over the place, which are Arthur 1 and Arthur 2 and into the Midlands. Get the tourist industry on its feet and start it going. Make the doodads to sell to people. Don't let the people in Hong Kong make tourist maps, or, you know, there's a minimum of 20,000 jobs in this. And I said, well, you don't even know half of it yet.
If you live in South Wales and would like to see something done about this and many of the other historical sites, then why not contact your council or parliament? After all, they are supposed to work for you. I'm Richard D. Hall. Good night.